Mr. Transformers 96 here for their end of the year video. This time I'm going to be doing my ranking of my top 8 favorite Marvel Legends figures from Hasbro. So I do this every year, and I'm quite excited to do it this year. There was a lot of cool figures that came out this year. I will just say that this year, as opposed to the years previous, was a little different for me when it comes to buying Marvel Legends figures. I tried to just buy the ones that I really wanted. I tried not to limit my ones that I bought just to complete a wave or to complete a Build-A-Figure if I didn't even want the Build-A-Figure. That type of thing. So the amount of Marvel Legends that I bought this year was probably smaller than usual. However, it was a lot of the characters I really wanted, and therefore there was a ton of great choices for this list, I must say. And there were some fantastic Marvel Legends this year. Hasbro, with this line in particular, does tend to try to one-up itself each year. I always feel that their figures get a little bit better each year, which is very exciting, I must say, especially if the price doesn't raise to meet that too. That's always very nice. So Marvel Legends really on a streak right now. I'm looking forward to some of the new ones, but for this year in 2018, we have quite a few choices that were really quite great. So let's get started on my number 8 choice of favorite Marvel Legends figures of 2018. Alright, in 8th place we have Magneto from the Apocalypse Build-A-Figure wave. This was a really nice figure. I really enjoyed this one. I love the accessories that it comes with, and I think it's really cool that they gave him that kind of translucent purple hands that he has. I think that's an interesting choice that I wouldn't have expected, but I really actually like it, and I like it a lot more than I expected I would too. I'm also a fan that he came with an extra head sculpt that looks really nice, and in general it's a solid, good figure. I didn't have a Magneto figure in my collection, so in my Marvel Legends collection, so to have this one was really nice. My only issue with it is a personal preference. I would have preferred a classic comic suit rather than this this more modern version of it, but nonetheless the figure itself is really nice and definitely deserving a spot on this list. Taking that 7th spot is the Captain America from the First 10 Years series in the 2-pack with Crossbones. This figure really shocked me because I didn't buy it for this figure whatsoever. I bought it for Crossbones. I could care less about this Captain America. Getting it out of the package, I was surprised to see that it actually had a new head sculpt. I wasn't expecting that. Both of the sculpts are new, and I really love the head sculpts. The head sculpts are the best Steve Rogers, Chris Evans head sculpts that we have for Marvel Legends, and they were just extremely impressive. And when you take, it in comparison to the last Captain America figure that came out before this one, which was the Infinity War one, it just blew that one out of the water, and I was incredibly impressed with it, and it surprised me a lot, and it finally gave me like a perfect Captain America figure for my collection. I didn't have a front and center Captain America figure until this one. I got it, I'm like, oh, this one's going straight front on the shelf, and both the helmeted and unhelmeted head sculpts of him are just spot on, which is very impressive. Taking that 6th spot is going to be Dr. Octopus. This figure came out in the SP-DR wave, Build-A-Figure wave. I didn't purchase any figures from that wave except for this one. This was a character that I've been wanting a Marvel Legends figure of for the longest time, and it was finally the one that I needed to complete the Sinister Six collection, so I was very excited about this one. It's a completely new sculpt, which I think is awesome, and it also includes the 4 tentacle arms, which is super cool. This would be probably close to number 1 on this list if it wasn't for the fact that the arms don't have any articulation. It makes them a little bit boring, and they're supposed to be so dynamic that it's just so disappointing that they don't have any articulation. Even if it's just like one point, like one baldron in the middle of each of these, would just improve them tremendously, even just that one joint, but instead they literally don't have any articulation, which makes it kind of boring, to be honest. So it's a wonderful figure. It's a figure that I would have expected more as a Build-A-Figure than an actual figure, but because of the lack of articulation in the arms, I've got to put it down a little bit. So that's why this figure isn't higher on this list, but it is still a fantastic figure, definitely deserving a spot on this list. Yellowjacket's gonna fly right into the 5th spot. This is a really nice figure. It's a character that I always wanted a figure of, really at any scale, because they never made any Yellowjacket figures, so I was incredibly excited to get it in the new First 10 Years series, and the figure did not disappoint. It's a really great figure, completely new sculpt, has lots of good articulation. Unlike the Dr. Octopus figure, the tentacles or the stingers on him actually have articulation, and it's pretty decent articulation as well. So this was a great figure. I had a ton of fun posing him, and he was overall really nice. Having an extra head sculpt where you could kind of see the Darren Cross underneath, that would be cool, but that's really unnecessary. I wouldn't have expected that. This figure himself is quite nice and definitely deserving a good spot on this list. Taking that fourth spot, we have the Red Skull from the First 10 Years series. I do have both versions of the figure here, just because they're very similar. They use the same head, arms, and legs. The torso and the kind of dress pieces underneath are different. So if I had to pick like one to put on this list, because I think it's a little unfair to have two, it would be the one that comes in the single pack because of the extra accessories that he comes with. But they're both basically on par and very similar in nature, so therefore I'm going to include them both here. But this is a fantastic figure. The amount of accessories that the single version comes with is just stunning. The head sculpt's really great, and it's a character that I've wanted for the longest time that they're finally giving us. That would have been a no-brainer, you know, for them to give us, considering he's such a big character in the comics. And as far as the movie line go, they literally only made Captain America. It wasn't like they had a bunch of figures that they were doing and they left Red Skull out. They literally only had Captain America, so like there's just one other character you can make a figure of, and they didn't, which is a shame. But I am happy to finally get it now, and I'm very impressed with the version that they actually ended up producing. Next up, we have the Deadpool figure from the Sauron Build-A-Figure wave. This figure was really cool. It was just one that I knew I had to get. And that's always very impressive when it's a character that I have a million of. I have a few Deadpool figures, yet I knew that I had to get this figure, and it was the figure that I wanted the most in this wave, that's very unusual, not gonna lie. There's a lot of Deadpool figures I've passed on too, but this one really struck my interest because of how unique it was. The fact that he's not wearing pants, which I just think is awesome. He's got underwear on. The underwear has heart-shaped Deadpool on it. You can see his bare legs, which has the great detailing from the cancer that's eating him up, and then you have the slippers, which I just think is hysterical, and they're bright pink. It's a really great figure. I love the head sculpt that you get as well, where you can see half of his regular face and then half the mask is on. It's really cool. It's really unique and very fun, and it allows you to put him in some really cool, fun poses. And again, a really unique sculpt. Like, they'll never be able to reuse from the waist down, they'll never be able to reuse that sculpt again, like, unless it's on just a re-release of this figure. So I'm very happy with it, and just super unique. Gotta love it. Taking that silver place, I've got to put the Thanos from the 3-pack of the First 10 Years series from Marvel Legends. Now, you might be really wondering and surprised to see this one here, considering I did a MCU villain ranking not too long ago, and in that ranking, if you remember, Thanos got pretty low, and Red Skull was number 1. So the fact that I've put this Thanos higher than Red Skull, it might be like, what? But the reason for that is that in that video, I was taking both versions of any of the characters that came out that had a second version. I would take them together and count them as one, and I'd take both of their figures into account. And the other figure from Thanos might just make it on another list that I'm doing that's not a great list for Marvel Legends. So that was the reason that he got so low on that list, while here he's getting so high, because the figure himself, without the baggage of the last one, is great. It's a fantastic sculpt. It gets the paint completely right, and then I also really respect the fact that they added new pieces to him. Ultron is a figure that they did new paint on, but they didn't add any pieces, and he needed new pieces. But with Thanos here, Thanos didn't really need a new piece. Like, he was fine with just the gauntlet with the fists and the head sculpt that they gave him, because the head sculpt's good. But here they gave you an extra hand that allows you to have the gauntlet open, so he's like using it, which I think is really cool. And then they also gave you 2 head sculpts, neither of which was the same from the original one. They're both completely different, which is great. And then they feature the new paint, which just makes the figure perfect and movie accurate. So therefore, definitely deserving a very high spot on this list. So now, getting ready for my favorite Marvel Legends figure of the year. Alright, and my favorite Marvel Legends figure of the year has to be Mysterio from the Lizard Build-A-Figure wave. This is a figure that I've wanted for a long time. I'm a big Mysterio fan. He is one of my favorite Spider-Man characters. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters, to be honest, which is why I'm so excited for Spider-Man 2, Far From Home. I think that's going to be great with Jake Gyllenhaal taking on the Fishbowl. So yeah, but I'm a big fan of him in the comics. I love his look, and I like his whole deal. The special effects background I think is really cool, because I'm into movies too, so it's just like he's a great balance of everything that I like, and his cheesy costume is awesome in my opinion. So I love the fishbowl helmet that they went with here. I think it's incredible that they have a head sculpt underneath that is so unique. Like, they could have easily just put a blank head sculpt underneath. They could have had the fishbowl be the head sculpt and just had a ball joint underneath. I mean, it would have been easy to do any of that stuff, but they went above and beyond by giving us not only a new head sculpt, but an awesome one. It's a skull with like a mist, that's running through the skull, and through the eyes and stuff. It's super cool. It looks awesome, and it's so unnecessary. You know, all of my figures that are on my worst Marvel Legends figures of the year list are on there because Hasbro cheaped out and they didn't do what needed to be done to make those things right. And it was, you know, 90% of those were easy mistakes that were clearly done to save money. So to do something like this that's unnecessary is just really great. And I really, I look at that and I absolutely, I notice it. And I also love the fact that he's basically a completely new sculpt. I mean, the checkered patterning that he has throughout his costume is very unique to him. And they didn't just paint that, they actually sculpted it, which is really nice. His cape has wonderful detail on the inside of it, like way more detail than I expected it to. And then I love the style of the hands that he comes with. And then he also comes with those cool mist, you know, kind of tentacle-like effect pieces that you can put around his feet. Just like he's a perfect figure. They went above and beyond. They could have easily released this figure, given him one of the standard, you know, open hands, no head sculpt, and no mist, and like no detail on the cape, and I wouldn't have been surprised, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. I would have still enjoyed it because I like the character. But now I not only enjoy this figure because of the character, but I enjoy it because it's a fantastic figure on top of the character. So that's why I love this figure. I've yet to ever see this figure on retail. I've never seen it on retail. I had to buy it online. So it shows you how popular it is as well. Great figure, would highly recommend it, and by far it's my favorite figure on this list. Sometimes I have a hard time choosing my favorite, and you know, the first couple, like 3, are a little bit interchangeable. With this one, no question, these are all great figures on this list, but there's no question with number 1, it's Mysterio, and I absolutely stand by that. So there's my ranking for my top 8 favorite Marvel Legends figures of the year, the ones that I did purchase. Looking at this list, you see it's quite a lot of villains. You get Deadpool and Captain America are the only non-villains. I think that's for 2 reasons. One, that I'm just a big villains fan in general, so I probably gravitate towards the villain figures a little bit more. But also the other thing is, like I mentioned, I was more picky this year about the Marvel Legends figures I did buy. I'm a villains fan, so the ones that made the cut as to mine were typically villains. So that's why I think that the villains definitely ruled this list more so than usual, I think. But these were some great figures. Like, this is a nice solid selection of figures. I have to say all of them are really great in their own way, and very happy with this list in general. I found that this year has been one of the best years for my list making when it comes to the end of the year videos. I'm having an easier time doing the lists, and I'm very confident in my choices, like even more so than usual. It's nice. Like, I feel like there's been some great figures. There's been some disappointing figures, but I certainly know which is which this year. There's not a ton of gray zone stuff, which is interesting. So I do like that quite a bit. But let me know what you guys think of my choices. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on my picks, as well as I'd love to hear your own thoughts. So definitely leave me the list of your favorite Marvel Legends, or just your favorite Marvel Legend of the year. I'd love to hear that. And again, these are my personal preferences. This is not necessarily what is the absolute best figures. These are what were my favorite figures of the year. And these 8, you know, including the 3 Red Skulls, are certainly my favorite Marvel Legends of the year. So let me know what you guys think of them. Again, if I haven't already posted it, I will be posting an opposite video of this, of my top 5 least favorite figures of the year for Marvel Legends, as well as I'll be doing a top list for the Transformers Studio series. I'll be ranking all the Hot Toys that I got this year. I'll be doing a ton of end of the year videos like I do every single year. They're so much fun to put together, and I hope that you guys enjoy them. So let me know what you guys thought, and thanks so much for watching.